Hi, and in this video, I'm going to talk about, can we change someone else? What if it's even for the better? So stick with me, let's explore it, let's get into it, and like, share, and subscribe, and comment too, and here we go. So I'm often asked, how can I change or help someone else who appears to be going down a very self-destructive path, or maybe doing things or can't see the things that they're doing or saying, and how they're negatively impacting not only themselves, their life, but the life of other individuals that's in their interpersonal circle, right? That's in their whole group. And what I typically say to that is, well, we can't really force someone into changing. And that's true. As much as we may want to be like, okay, look, this is what you're doing. And if you would do this, this, and this, it would be better for you. And we think we can see that. But let's put the lens on ourselves first, and then we'll talk about looking at them. What about the things we could change to make our life better? Could we be more patient? Could we eat healthier? Could we exercise more? Could we do whatever it is? Listen to our partner more, listen to our kids more, whatever it is. Those are absolutely things that we could do to make our life better and the lives of those around us. Why don't we do it? We don't, because it's not always that easy. It's not like there's this little magic wand that can kind of float around, or a little fairy godmother or fairy godfather, whatever it is, come in and just knock you on the head, right, with their magic wand, and everything suddenly changes. The perspective changes. The drive for change changes. And it's so hard to do that. Now, let's add a component of borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. Now, these particular personality disorders, well, all personality disorders, but we're going to focus really on these two. And these disorders particularly are destructive for self and others. And they're kind of built that way. And personality disorders, what they do is the individuals that have them, or even traits, is that they set up an interpersonal circle, an interpersonal system that reinforces a lot of those negative beliefs about self, others, and the world around them. So it makes change really hard because that interpersonal circle becomes reinforcing. So it reinforces a lot of those negative things, which adds to the difficulty of change. So that's why even going into a therapist, you can be like, look, do A, B, and C, and then suddenly, everything will be different. It's not that easy. Suddenly think positive and you'll be positive. It's not that easy, because what we have to do is we have to unlearn the negatives and then learn the positives, the adaptive aspects. So when we talk about somebody else and how can we help them change, what we want to do is we have to talk to them in a way that they'll hear us. So for an individual along the narcissistic spectrum, and I teach this to a lot of mental health providers when I do seminars and we talk about narcissism, and clients that are along the narcissistic spectrum, is that we have to speak narcissism. And speaking narcissism means that we frame things in a way that is not only a safe way to hear it and understand it, but also to their benefit. Because what the narcissist and the narcissistic dynamic, what that does is that it is designed to protect a very scared inner self. And we have to speak to that fear in a way. We have to be able to connect to a lot of those concerns, fears, worries, but also frame things in a way that's to their benefit. Because remember, the narcissistic individual, although very, very afraid, typically their core content is fear, shame, doubt, guilt, inferiority. So those things are often driving that overt narcissism, even the covert narcissism. And I have videos on that. I'll put a link here for you. And so what we need to do is we need to speak to them in a way that is to their benefit, and it's not going to exacerbate the narcissism. Because narcissism, because it's negative, we would have to say something like, you should do whatever you want and get everything you want whenever you want it. And if you got to make people feel bad in order to get your needs met, you should do it. No one's going to say that. Instead, what we can say is, if you build up different levels of social skills, there are people that can help with that, or build up social potency, you can achieve and get the things you want in such a different way that people see how impactful you are, how your gifts can really show and illustrate and magnify the things that you're able to do. And I've used this a lot with physicians that have often come to see me who want to work on narcissistic perspectives. Perhaps it's related to anger management. It's with other nursing staff or other doctors or hospital staff, things of that nature. And what we do is we reframe those things, that here's your gifts, but the way that you're conveying it is really hard, but we have to phrase it in a way that's to their benefit. A narcissist is not going to hear that. Is that you're very aggressive. You're raising your voice, because when we raise our voice, people don't hear us. But what narcissists want to do is they want to be heard. So they think, well, I'm going to turn up the volume. It's a very primitive process. So I'm going to turn up the volume and you're going to hear me, and then you're going to do what I want you to do. Often people will capitulate, but there's no drive to get that need met, and they don't see the individual with the narcissism as powerful and impactful. Often they see them as obnoxious and very, very dissonant figures that they want to be away from. And that's the opposite of what the narcissist really wants. So what we have to do is we have to frame things in a way that they can hear it. Becoming more socially potent. How you can convey your gifts in a way that people can see that your talent is exhibited. And again, what we're doing is we're framing things in a way where they feel safe, they can understand that and move forward. Now, individual along the BPD spectrum, we would frame it very, very differently, because a lot of individuals with borderline personality disorder tend to have the classic core content of abandonment, inferiority, and rejection sensitivity. So we speak to them in a way that, the way to connect with others, the way we can do that is by not only recognizing that abandonment and really kind of connecting to others, but being more open, but also understanding our own needs and fears. And you can hear the difference between the narcissistic, right, component and approach and the borderline approach. And in hearing that, you see these are two different personality styles. So what we need to know is, how do we help people achieve a more positive outcome or change through the way we relate to them, the way we connect to them? It's really hard to do. And I think that we have to do it from an aspect of positivity. You're never going to make anyone feel bad enough to do good things. You're just not. You're not going to amplify somebody's shame where they're suddenly going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do things completely different. Oh yeah, I'm going to be motivated to listen to my kids and my spouse and try to be more patient with others. It's just not going to happen. People don't work that way. It'd be great if they did, but they don't. So again, we have to approach it from a motivational standpoint, from where they are in their process. And it's really hard. And it's not a one and done process. It is very much a process of visiting, revisiting, encouragement, listening. And this is why mental health providers can really be helpful in this way. And it's not just telling them, do this, and it'll be different. It's about understanding where they're coming from, recognizing that their patterns aren't really helpful and aren't helping them get their needs met. Then are they open and able to look at adaptive ways to get their needs met, then implementing those things? Whew, it sounds like a lot of steps. It's because it is a lot of steps. But it is possible for individuals to change and for you to help them along the way. You're not going to be able to make them change. And I know it's hard to see people that are on a destructive path continue a destructive path. And I know that that's difficult. Believe me, in my over 2 decades of doing this, I completely understand that. But I've also learned that we have to see where they're at. We have to be able to understand where they're going and have a level of compassion and understanding, and maybe being that resource that when they're ready to change. And that's often when dissonance has reached a certain level, right? When they're so uncomfortable, like, what the heck is going on? You can look at it from an alcoholic perspective, is that the alcoholic has to see that their addiction, that their abuse has reached this level that they hit rock bottom. It's hitting that rock bottom when they're like, wait a minute, I got to do things differently. And then they make the approach. But it's not like you go to one meeting and all of a sudden, boom, sober, I'm just going out and living my life. It doesn't work that way. It becomes a process. And it's helping that person along that process. You're not pulling them. You're walking with them. So I hope this was helpful. Please leave any comments or suggestions that you might have. And please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.